It's the Fantasy Football Hustle. Here are your hosts, Brian Drake and Dwain McFarland.
All right, let's move along and look at Austin Ekeler from the Chargers. Now, we talk about getting running backs who are popular in the receiving game. How about a guy with 108 targets? He caught 92 of them. That is unbelievable efficiency. 85% catch rate right there. He had 8 receiving touchdowns last year. So here's a guy you can get who is almost 1,000-yard receiver as a running back. He's going to run the ball a little as well. He had 132 carries last year, ran it in 3 times. That's not his strong suit. And they did draft the kid out of UCLA. They still have Justin Jackson hanging around also. But Austin Ekeler in this team that could be trailing in a lot of games. Tyrod Taylor, we'll see about Justin Herbert. But here's a guy that in a half-point PPR last year was running back 6, and he's coming off the board as the 15th, 16th player. To me, Dwain, this screams value.
Yeah, I mean, look at average 20 points a game. In the 4 games before Gordon came, he averaged 27%. I mean, he averaged 27 points a game. So he was an RB1, over 25 points, 5 of 16 games, so 31% of the time. He was an RB2, 14 in the 14 to 24 point range, 5 of 16 games. So 62% of his games, 10 of his games, he was an RB1 or an RB2 for you. In the 4 games without Gordon, again, really small sample, 100% of the time he was an RB1 or RB2. 75% of the time he was an RB1 before Melvin Gordon came back. He was under an RB2 6 of 16 games, 0% of the time before Gordon came back. So, he's pretty evenly split, 62%, above that RB2 line. And then you got 38% below the RB2 line as far as what you got out of Austin Ekeler. Again, we talked about that, so we can move here. As far as the snaps, though, it did get a little bit concerning. Notice that once Gordon came back, right, he gets pushed down into these lower ranges. But the question is, what's going to happen, right? How many carries do we think he's going to get, right? Last year, his average was 56% of the snaps, so he was right there on that RB2 lane. And you can see after these first 4 weeks after Gordon came back, that went down, and as well as all the carries from inside, the 5. Before Gordon came back, in these 2 weeks, he got 100% of it. Then once Gordon was back, notice all these 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So the real question here that we've got to look at with Ekeler is, what is their plan? I don't think they're going to give him 50 to 60% of the carries like they did before Gordon was back. And the reason I think that is because once Gordon was back, it's not like they went to a time split, right? They really, really took, his carries, down. He had been over here 57, 68, 50, 56. Now look at this, 19, 36, 24, 25, 32. So it wasn't like, oh, Melvin Gordon's back and Austin Ekeler's been great. We're just going to split it down the middle, or we're going to give, Melvin Gordon 50% and give Ekeler, 40%. No, they really curtailed it, down to that 30, 20% range. So I don't think we're going to see them want to use him in a way where he's going to be up in the 60% range like what we saw in these first few weeks. If we were, that I think that upside is there. It's certainly somewhere within the range of outcomes. I wouldn't call it likely, right? But I mean, it's somewhere within the range of outcomes that they just ride him and let it go. And this obviously is where Ekeler, even once Gordon was back, notice, I mean, he's still plugging along. And I think that's what you're still going to see. He's going to be up in this RB1 range as far as his routes ran for drop back. Look at this, Drake. Look at, his target shares, how often they're over the RB1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games.
Wow. Right?
Out of 16, he's over the RB1 threshold for, target share. I mean, these are target shares really more like receivers, right? 31, yeah. 21,
he's a receiver
24.
Playing running back.
Right. And that's what I still think his role is going to be. I've got him as just slightly overvalued. Again, it's not somebody I'm just going to scream about not taking. I'm just not super excited about it because it's really tough to repeat, those type of numbers as a receiver, as a runner. And I'm worried about Tyrod Taylor. I'm worried about Justin Herbert. Tyrod Taylor is the kind of guy that won't check it down and will just take off. I mean, that could hurt his target share. I'd feel better if I really thought he could get to that 50 to 55% of attempts. But right now, I've got him slotted in that 40% range, and he could be more like 35%. I think some of that does depend on how Justin Jackson and Kelly out of UCLA, how they're playing. I think the way that Ekeler ends up just being on the field all the time is if they just both totally tank, right? But there's two guys now that have to tank, not just one. And so the way I look at it is it's probably going to be those two guys working in with Ekeler. So I'm not going to say there's not upside because he could get to that 50, 55% of attempts. And then, man, wow, you've got a steal. He's going to be in the top 6-7 RBs pretty much every week consistently, if that occurs. I just don't quite see it. So he's at the point where I've been letting him go, and I've been taking DeAndre Hopkins, even though I know receivers deep. I just like some of the other receivers a little bit more than I like Ekeler. And again, it's not a knock against Ekeler. It's just I love the receptions. I need more attempts, and I need more of the carries inside the 5.
I'll be honest, I haven't drafted him once all season yet.
Well, he's kind of the flip of Derrick Henry, right? Henry gets all the inside the 5 and all the carries. Ekeler doesn't get all the carries in the inside the 5, and he gets a lot of the receptions. Now we are talking PPR here, so I think you're gonna see reduced spikes. If you just want your second round pick to be a guy that is going to be 10 points every week, and you can occasionally get 20, and you're fine with that, and so that basically your floor is right around that RB2 threshold. Maybe I'd say 13, 14 points, and then occasionally you'll get your 20. I think Ekeler can be that guy, and he obviously carries a little bit of upside from there. It's just I get to that point, and it's like I'm staring at Chris Godwin, I'm staring at DeAndre Hopkins, and at that point, I just start leaning receiver a little bit more, at least on the drafts that I've done. So I don't think he's hugely overvalued, given where all the runners fall out, but he's definitely – I like the receivers that are starting to go there better than I like him, in the drafts I've done.
Again, shout out to our man, Corey Hitpiss. He is the newest member of the Hustle team. Every week we'll make up a new fun nickname for his job title, Director of Hustle Diagnostics, whatever we want to do. But